So, this guy killed at least 71 people. The YouTuber's name is Pedro, and when this mess starts, he's only 14 years old. He's from a small town in Brazil, and right away people notice he's not like other kids. He doesn't cry the way other kids cry. He doesn't seem bothered the way most of us would be. It's like empathy is missing from him. The dude's cold in a way that makes people uneasy. One morning in 1968, he hears something that flips a switch. His dad works as a security guard at the local school cafeteria. Not a big job, but it keeps food on the table. The school accuses his dad of stealing food. The deputy mayor, some crooked local with a chip on his shoulder, pushes for the man to be fired. The school fires him. Pedro hears the news and he can't let it slide. He thinks of his dad sleeping hungry that night, of the humiliation. So the kid does something nobody expects. He disappears for a little while, comes back with a shotgun, walks to the town hall where the deputy mayor is standing in front of everybody, and bam! He pulls the trigger. The deputy mayor drops. People scream. Pedro doesn't run. He stands there, calm, like he's checked something off a list. But he's not done. He's convinced another guard was actually stealing the food, and he tracks that guard down. Blam, he kills him too. 2 people dead, and the boy is now a twice-over murderer. He realizes staying is impossible, so he bolts, hops a bus, and disappears 3 hours away to a new city. The violence is sudden, efficient, and weirdly unbothered. It's the kind of violence that doesn't look for meaning. It looks for cause and effect. Pedro sees a wrong, and he makes the wrong right his way. Pedro runs to a new city and blends into the crowd. There he meets a local woman. She's smart, rough around the edges, and Pedro thinks she's fine. They move in together, the pace is quick, and soon she's pregnant. But this woman carries baggage. She's the widow of a local drug boss. Her husband had been killed, and his operation is in disarray. Pedro sees something that interests him. Power, structure, a way to belong. He slides into that void. Before long, he's running the remnants of the drug operation. When you're young and violent and have a taste for control, the underworld feels like a place you can make rules. Pedro becomes the kind of leader who doesn't hesitate. Rival dealers, informants, anyone who threatens his corner, they start dying. These aren't messy, confused crimes. They're executions carried out with a detached efficiency. Pedro is methodical. Then, around 1970, something else happens. While Pedro's out doing whatever he does, meeting suppliers, settling debts, or tracking people, men from a rival gang break into his house. They attack the widow, she's pregnant, and they kill her. Pedro comes back to find his partner gone and the house violated. He's devastated in his own way, and it becomes personal. From that moment, he's not just protecting an operation, he's hunting. He goes on a revenge spree, and it's messy. He tracks people down, he interrogates them, he tortures in the pursuit of names, and then he kills. The bodies pile up. He leaves a trail. People start whispering about a masked avenger, about a young man who shows up and executes those he blames. Eventually, someone cracks and tells him the names. A local drug gang is responsible. Pedro doesn't wait for court. He and 4 of his men kidnap a rumor and turn it into a date. So they get word that the gang leader is at his cousin's wedding. A big family thing, loud music, lots of people. Pedro and 4 guys roll up, armed and dangerous, and then it goes brutal fast. They open fire on the wedding. Blam, blam, blam. 7 people are killed, 16 are injured. Families crushed in seconds. The massacre shocks everyone. A wedding turned into a battlefield. and the name Pedro starts to travel through the underworld like smoke. A few months later, something even smaller blows up into violence. Pedro finds out his cousin's pregnant, and the baby daddy is refusing responsibility. The man runs off. He won't marry her, he won't help. Pedro doesn't tolerate that behavior. For Pedro, family obligations are laws, so he tracks the man down, and the man's moved to a farm outside Rio de Janeiro. The family gives Pedro the address, maybe thinking they're doing the right thing, maybe not knowing what storm they've let loose. Pedro goes to Rio, finds the man relaxing in a hammock, no fuss, no plan. They look at each other for a second and then both draw. Guns speak and one guy ends up dead. That's how Pedro handles violations of his code. Directly, absolutely, and without pleading for mercy. Eventually, the law catches up. In 1973, Pedro is 18. Years of running, killing, and hiding take their toll. The police find him and arrest him. He doesn't fight the headlines. He confesses to 10 murders right away. Not all of them, but a lot. He's sentenced to 128 years. That sounds like forever, but in some systems that can still leave room for complications. Prison doesn't quiet him. In fact, it becomes his next arena. While being transported in a van, there's another inmate in the back seat convicted of sexually assaulting a woman. Pedro, who has a twisted code, he hates certain crimes more than others, decides that car is the place to act. He attacks, he overpowers, and the inmate dies in the van. The guards are stunned. The man's dead on the way to lockup. Pedro's sentence just got a new stain. Inside prison, Pedro continues to pick targets. He kills other inmates, mostly those he thinks deserve it in his own brutal rule book. Murderers, drug dealers, people convicted of crimes against kids. But he's also unpredictable. Once he kills a cellmate because the guy snored too much. It's petty and monstrous at the same time. He plays a strange social game behind bars. He befriends certain inmates and then sometimes he turns on them if they cross some line. One friend turns out to have killed his own sister. Pedro refuses to overlook that. Later, he beheads that friend. It's violent, decisive, and it scares people into a kind of respectful distance. There's also the time he's told a group of inmates plans to jump him. So he buys a knife from a guard. Bribery and trade are just part of the system. And when the ambush comes, he pulls out the blade and stabs 3 men, killing them. The prison counts more bodies, and Pedro's reputation becomes cemented. Inside, he's an executioner. Outside, he's the boy who became a gunman and didn't stop. Time moves. Pedro ages, his parents remain alive out there, and tragedy follows the family. His father, a violent man in his own right, gets into a fight with Pedro's mother and kills her with a machete. The father is arrested, tried, and sent to the same prison complex as Pedro. Different wings, but the same walls. When Pedro hears the news, something in him flips again. This is personal in a way that scrambles all logic. He bribes guards, arranges a meeting, and gets into the wing where his father is held. The meeting is supposed to be for talking, but Pedro goes in with a weapon and kills his own father. It's raw, immediate, and final. There are versions of the story that describe things differently, but the through line is the same. Pedro removes his father as if he were removing another threat. And then there's the legal oddity that changes everything. In Brazil at that time, the law capped the maximum time someone could be forced to serve behind bars. No matter how many years a judge stacked up, the system had a maximum threshold. So even with 128 years on his sheet, Pedro reaches that legal limit. In 2007, after decades of headlines and bodies, he is released. He's 52 years old, a free man again. People are shocked. Families of victims are furious. The state's rules produce a scene nobody expected. A notorious killer steps out of the gates and walks into the sun. He doesn't go back to quiet. He lives a few years outside, but trouble finds him again. He gets arrested in 2011, goes back to prison, then released again in 2018. Each time he comes out, he's older, but his legend grows. To some, he's the man who punished criminals. To others, he's one of Brazil's most notorious murderers. Here's where the story gets bizarre in a modern way. In his later years, Pedro becomes something of a local legend. He goes online, he starts a YouTube channel, he posts vlogs, he appears on podcasts, he talks openly about his past. There's a clip of him being baptized, like a short video where he says he found religion, says he wants people to live better lives. He's on TikTok with hundreds of thousands of followers. He's been interviewed on shows, people are fascinated. Some listen because they want to learn from a life gone wrong. Others watch because the shock is addictive. He's a public figure in small-town Brazil. The man who killed so many, then came back into the world and tried to remake himself. He gives interviews where he sometimes admits things, sometimes dodges specifics, and sometimes offers moralizing statements that feel strange coming from someone with his record. But then his past catches up in the most final way. In 2023, he's old now, well into his 60s. He's at a relative's home, sitting on the porch. Two masked men pull up in a black car. They get out, they walk up, and they shoot him. Blam, 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 blam. He falls. One of the attackers finishes the job. He's dead on the porch. To this day, police never clearly name the killers who sent them, why they acted. And there are a lot of rumors. Was it revenge? A professional hit? People have theories. Family of victims, rivals with long grudges, someone settling an old score. We don't have a definitive answer. The case is messy, open, and cold. At the end of it all, what do you hold? A boy who snapped, a man who built a violent code, a prisoner who kept killing, a free man who went online and became a controversial figure. He killed a lot of people. He left families destroyed. He claimed certain moral lines and crossed others without blinking. Some call him a vigilante. Most call him a murderer. The truth sits somewhere in the ruins. This is the kind of story that makes you feel small and uncomfortable. It's not about glorifying violence. It's about trying to understand how a life can twist that badly, and how the systems around him failed, enabled, and eventually released him. It's about how sometimes the lines between law, revenge, and power blur until they're almost meaningless.